Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it? Hey, we are back. It's the Brad and John Show. You can check it out at bjshow.co. And we are on Egbert Radio, E-G-G-B-U-R-T. He's our owner. He's a nice guy, a little bit quirky. Check him out at egbert.com, E-G-G-B-U-R-T. If you just want to go to the radio page, you can go to egbertonair.com. How's that for domain names? John.
I'm here.
What else you got to talk about this morning? I'm going to throw it over to you.
Well, let's see. We've got, MoDot has issued their... MoDOT is assuring Missourians that they are standing at the ready today for what will be a slushy, wintry mix essentially from mid-Missouri up north and then down south. It's going to just mostly be cold rain today. So that's what's going on in the traffic-wise.
Which means that when we get that first little bit of frozen precipitation being sleet, snow, everybody will forget how to drive. You know what I'm saying?
And they will completely freak out. Speaking of driving, Brad, another story that's up on my website today is that construction on I-70 with this huge expansion where the highway will be at least three lanes going each direction will begin this spring. They're still working on finalizing some contract details with the contractors that won these giant awards of taxpayer money. So that construction will begin this spring. The first section that they're going to work on is going to be between Kingdom City and Columbia. So be prepared for a lot of orange cones and orange barrels for the next few years.
Let me ask you a question. I've heard the politicians say, do you ever go to Jefferson City? Ever go 70 west at all? I mean, very much like outside of the St. Louis Metro?
Yeah, not really.
Okay. I've heard several of the politicians through the years saying, we have to do something about 70. It's in terrible shape. And I drive, I don't want to say all the time, but I drive out west, especially like when my two sons lived in Kansas City. I went, 70 back and forth quite a few times. And I'm always the guy that has no problem with going down to Jefferson City, getting my license plates renewed and stuff like that. So I've never had any problems in 70. Matter of fact, most of the time I would say, I compliment MoDOT because the roadway's in good shape. There's a couple rough spots here and there, but for the most part, they've done a good job of maintaining it. And I've never had any traffic jams in 70. Once you get past essentially Wright City, unless there's an accident or something, you never have any problems. I don't necessarily understand the 3 lanes between, I get when you come into the metro, and this is like a common situation you have in all interstate highways. A lot of them are, 2 lanes in each direction, 4 lanes, whatever you want to call it. And as you come into the metro, you start to gain lanes. Sometimes it'll go 3 lanes, and I think like when you go into Kansas City, it hits out about Oak Grove, if you know where that's at, which is east of Kansas City, one of the far eastern metro suburbs of Kansas City. And it goes to 3 lanes. And then I think actually when you get to Kansas City at some spot, it's 4 lanes. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I don't necessarily understand. Now, once again, I'm saying, knock yourself out, guys. 3 lanes all the way between that would be essentially from west of 4064 because it narrows down to 2 lanes as you go through the S curve there in Wentzville because it can't go any more than that because of the goofy railroad bridge. But, I don't know.
I think first of all, I think lawmakers are biased because everybody today loves Mizzou. 10 years ago, Mizzou was quite unpopular. And when folks go to football games on, however many Saturdays that is, in the fall, traffic is backed up. It gives everybody an opportunity to complain about 70. Brad, we know that S-curve is just atrocious. People have been talking about that for years. To me, one of the reasons why it's so popular, if you take a 30,000-foot view of this, is that it's something that the state can spend money on, that Democrats can take credit for in their district, Republicans can take credit for in their district. And even if you're nowhere near Highway 70, if you're in Springfield lawmakers today are touting the I-70 expansion and saying, The great thing about the I-70 expansion is that we fought and we worked for more funding for I-44, and that I-44 funding is coming, and we're already planning our whatever. Who can argue against building more roads, except if you're, a very strict libertarian or you're against a lot of spending? Very few people are going to stand up and say, no, we don't want better roads in this state.
Yeah, but see, I fashion myself as somewhat maybe a lot of a libertarian. See, the libertarian view is that is what the government should be doing. The government
one
should
of the
be,
only things,
right? They
one
should,
of the only things the government should.
Well,
be
first off, the federal government should protect us. That's number one thing. As far as defense. And second thing should be that, they should supply, essentially make the country better by providing infrastructure. Because you know darn well that, because I'm on some of these, I'm in some of these Chamber of Commerce meetings where there are various speakers and stuff like that. And they're always talking about bringing businesses into the St. Louis area. And if they're big businesses, they're always talking about, is the infrastructure there for us to have X amount of trucks come in? Like, for example, when they built the Amazon warehouse out in St. Peter's, that kind of stuff. Are we, what is the path for our trucks and then our delivery vehicles to get in and out of there onto the interstate and, deliver their packages all over the place? I don't have a problem with that, but I do have a problem with the fact that when they start, see, and this is going to tick off a lot of people. I'm an anti-parks guy. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like it's generally a waste of space?
Well, exactly. I mean, for example, here's the thing: if you're in your daily travels today. If you talk to, I know you wouldn't do this, but in the course of a week, let's say you talk to 100 people that have lived their life entirely in St. Louis. Ask 100 people how many times they've been in the Arch. I think you'd probably have 30 of them, maybe 20 to 30 of them who's been in the Arch. The other 60 or 70 never been in the Arch, or 17 or 80, whatever it is. So once again, and the crazy thing about that is, if you go back in history, that whole area was a very lively, robust area of businesses and homes and things like that. And they just took it all. It's gone. And people talk about, the fact that if you've ever been to Cincinnati, they've got a very thriving riverfront. There's a lot of places that have a thriving riverfront. Our riverfront is dead because you know why? Because they made it isolated. I still am ticked off about the fact that when they did this renovation of the Arch, they chopped out the garage. Remember the Arch garage there?
I don't remember the Arch garage.
The Arch garage was on the north side of the Arch grounds. It was on the corner of Washington and L.K. Sullivan.
Okay.
And matter of fact, it was a lot of people used the Arch garage to go to the landing when the landing was hot.
Yeah.
So here they tear out the Arch garage because it wasn't aesthetically pleasing, and then they shut down Washington Street. You used to be able to drive Washington Street all the way, from out west and just keep going, and literally Washington ended at the riverfront. When you got to the end of Washington, you were at L.K. Sullivan, which is the old Wharf Street right there on the riverfront. Well, they closed that entrance. So what they did was because they wanted to make the Arch aesthetically pleasing. Okay, I have friends that are handicapped, and you probably do too. If you're going to go to the Arch, how do you get there? Where do you park?
Yeah, where are you supposed to park, or where's your van supposed to drop you off?
Well, and if you go down, if your van drops you off down on L.K. Sullivan, you got 14,000 steps to go to the Arch.
That's true.
It's not like there's a wheelchair ramp there.
It's not ADA friendly.
Right.
But the question is, Brad, so you mentioned the landing. I used to go down, in college, we'd go to the landing a couple times a weekend. Everybody I know of a certain era would hang out at the landing. Could anything bring it back? And
No.
I know that question sounds cynical,
No.
and that's by design.
No.
What could possibly bring it back?
No, it's gone because the casino came in and took all the took most of the real estate there,
Yep.
and once again the problem you've got with parking, and there was a lot of cross pollination between the Arch and the landing. I think that was sort of interesting because tourists would come and once again they would park in those parking garages and they'd go to the Arch. A lot of times they'd walk under the Eads Bridge, because that's right there. That's what separated the Arch, or the pretty much the landing from the arch grounds, they would walk, right out of that garage, go into the landing, stuff like that. That was the daytime tourists and some of the nighttime tourists. Landing was a hot spot. There was good bars. What Mississippi Nights is still renowned for having all these incredible bands that today you'd have to spend $1,000 for a ticket, and back in the day you had to buy 2 beers to watch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was a big fan of Mississippi Nights.
Right, and once again they sort of killed the whole thing.
But also, how much of that naturally demographically is just due to crime? Like, I don't want to go to anything except for a Cardinal game in the city.
Well, but see, you're not that, and you've said it. A lot of people will not admit that. A lot of people will not admit, what you just said, but it's true. I mean, I'm the guy that loves Metrolink. I'm the guy that loves downtown areas. I love downtown. It's to the point where, after the COVID thing, I used to have favorite restaurants I used to go to. I used to go to Calico's all the time.
Oh, I loved Calico's. Right there on the corner. Yeah, I had a friend that worked there. It was fantastic.
That was the last Calico's in the St. Louis area. There used to be one in Creve Coeur, and there was one out in St. Peter's, or I don't know if that was St. Peter's or O'Fallon, the boundary line out there off of Salt Lick Road. And I used to go there all the time. I used to go downtown. I used to park on the street. I mean, and I love the vibe of downtowns at night. There's something about, and
the energy there. Yeah.
Right. I'm not talking about like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm talking about, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. And I used to go down quite a bit. I used to go down for all the shows. I mean, like coming up next month, I used to do the car show, the home show. I used to do the wedding show because I'd go there for possible clients that advertise on the radio station. I'd go there for all the crazy shows. Okay. Since COVID, I haven't been to one of them. And it's to the point.
And you're not alone. I mean, other than that, why would you, if you're listening to us right now and in the Westplex, other than a sporting event where you can generally park somewhere safe, you would never drive down there to eat dinner. Like, where are you going to eat?
See, that's the interesting thing that you brought up a very good point, and I don't know if this is, a technical term or not. I consider St. Charles County to be now a self-contained county, meaning that it's got pretty much everything of what you want. If you live in St. Charles County.
You couldn't possibly eat in every restaurant in St. Charles County, every good restaurant in a year.
Right. If you want a nice place to work out, there's all sorts of gyms. Matter of fact, they're finishing up a brand new Planet Fitness, which is sort of interesting. Planet Fitness, they've got one out in Washington. It's this 2-story workout building, Planet Fitness right there. And this is on Highway K, okay? You've got nice parks. You've got, all sorts of things. You've got retail up and down Highway K. If you can't find, a place to eat on Highway K, there's something wrong with you. You know what I mean? It's just everything is there, and there's no reason for you to go. Now, people will say, well, you don't have any art museums, and you don't have any, all the, the snooty people are going to say, well, St. Charles County does not have any place to have a symphony concert. We've got the Powell
listen to
Hall.
Jazz. Where can we listen to jazz?
Well, although there is a place, there's a place down on, I don't know if it's still there or not, on Main Street in St. Charles called Tuners. You ever heard of this place?
Didn't know that.
Yeah, and they have a lot of different local, very talented musicians. I don't know if it's still there or not. I have to check that out. Let me make a note. I'll talk about that tomorrow. See if I can find it.
But to the idea of museums, Brad, and so I look at this as somebody that has kids. I know that every year my kids if they want to do some urban exploration, every year their school takes them on a trip to the zoo, the art museum, somewhere where the buses can be safe and drop them off at the door. And, you can fill in the gaps as a parent. But you think about, for example, next month, at the beginning of February, the WWE is coming to St. Louis. Now, I would love to take my son to a WWE event for at least a couple hours, not the whole time. But I also know that if I can park, it might cost me $40 to park in the garage if I get a ticket. Or else, do you think I'm going to walk with my child, park at Union Station or park somewhere and hike 5 blocks after dark with my offspring? Absolutely not.
Well, but see, now, statistically, you're probably, 99.9% safe. You know what I mean? But
probably,
there's always that 0.1%, or that 0.1%. I don't know. I mean, it's sad, and I I had lunch with Mike Elam. I think we talked about this in the air one day. That I said to him, I said, if St. Charles County was smart, they would just pretend that St. Louis City doesn't exist, and we would just market ourselves as, hey.
And Mike disagrees with that because he has he has the Navy metaphor about if you're not 200 yards away, you'll get sucked in the undertow.
I threw it back at him, and he was,
absolutely.
But
and there's another big reason why folks don't go to sporting events anymore, and we're up against time, but maybe we talk about it in the next segment.
Well, I think it's because of the fact that you can watch it anywhere right now,
And you can watch it in comfort on a beautiful television and have your own drinks and food and your own bathroom.
And not have somebody behind you spill beer on you, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, they might, Brad, depending on what kind of people you have over at your house.
If you got some rowdy friends at your house, there may be lots of beer spilling going on. Okay, we'll be back. This is the Brad and John Show. You can check it out at bjshow.co, and we are on Egbert, EGGBORT 740.